G'day guys, Tom Hollings here, co-founder of Different Drop with Ian Barr, head of imports at DD, and happy International Orange Wine Day today. We love these international wine days.
Happy Orange Day.
Happy Orange Day, love the oranges. Guys, orange wine, we love orange wine here at DD, skin contact wine, amber wine, orange wine, however you want to call it. And we just want to talk a little bit about orange wine, what orange wine is, why we love it, and look at a few amazing benchmarks from Australia and around the world as well. So, I mean, for me, Ian, I've got really into orange wine over the last, I'd say, 5 or 6 years. I love the variety of flavours. You get really eclectic styles. No two orange wines are really the same. Texturally, though, is where they come alive. I love the tannin, full body, interesting textures. Great with a variety of foods. Great picnic wines in the sun as well. And so it's a style that I've really found myself really drawn to.
I think it's amazing that there's almost a whole new category of wines that has appeared in the Australian wine scene, Australia and abroad, in the last 10 years or so. It's like you've got red wine, sparkling wine, rosé, and it's like a whole new category. An ancient style has become modern once again. And it's
really interesting because you've got wines from rosé going through to kind of white wines with a bit of skin contact, and it's this weird, almost in between category that probably is a little confusing to punters.
Glad I don't have to write restaurant wine lists and where they all fit, because it's good. It's good to be.
It's great fun.
Confusing,
and the quality is getting better and better all the time too. So I guess, mate, for the uninitiated, what is orange wine?
Orange wine is wine that comes from the town of Orange. Orange wine is simply
made from oranges.
Made from oranges. Orange wine is simply wine made from white grapes, but made in the style of red wine making, which means they are kept in contact with the skins. The majority of white wines are made with trying to have as little contact with the skins of the grape as you possibly can. They crush and press the grapes as quick as you can to get pure juice. In red wine making, it's the exact opposite. They want the skin contact to get that colour into the red wines. You basically, you can always say like a rosé is a wine from red grapes made like a white wine, and an orange wine is a white wine made in the way you make a red wine. So there's even more confusion here, but essentially it's white wine made with the skins of the grape in the process.
And the funny thing about orange wine is it's this new style that's become trendy in the last decade, but really it's one of the most ancient winemaking techniques or styles on the planet. I mean, it's how they made wine 5,000-6,000 years ago.
Yeah, back when I was just a young child starting out in the industry.
That's right, back in the Middle East there in Georgia.
Very, very ancient style, but it's such, as I said, it's such a great thing that a whole new generation, a whole new society of people are getting to see these wine styles.
Absolutely. Let's jump in. So I've poured, the first one we're going to look at is it's probably our go-to introductory orange wine. It's the 2021 Esoterico from Unico Zello. Unico Zello is Brendan and Laura Carter, amazing young producer. They're not so young now in terms of how long they've been playing their craft. They've been at it for a decade, which is remarkable given they're only about 30. But they're an incredible producer. They're based in the Adelaide Hills, but the fruit for this wine has always come from the Riverland. It's a blend of Zabebo, Moscato Giallo, Gewürztraminer, Greco di Tufo, and then Fiano. So you've got a couple of Italian varieties there in Greco and Fiano that add lovely acid and backbone to this wine, and then Gewürz, Zabebo, Moscato, all giving these incredible aromatics, and that's always been a hallmark of this wine, that it's quite neat and dry, but it has these beautiful big aromatics as well, and always been incredible value for money. So you can see the colour there, it's got a lovely kind of golden orange tinge without being too over the top.
It's not super orangey. It's a gateway drug, this wine.
Yeah.
If you're looking to dip your toes in the orange wine scene, perfect starting point. Just a little bit of grip on the finish there. Beautiful tropical overtones with a kind of tangerine element to it as well.
It's more dry on the palate than what the nose suggests. You smell this and you go, wow, this looks sweet. You know, it's got these big perfume aromatics, really playful, fruity, exotic sort of nose. And then the tannin is really neat and dry and dialed in. I think it's actually really smart. As I said, remarkable value. These styles are often quite expensive. They're hard to produce. They take a long time to produce. This is just a really well balanced example of this style, and maybe my favourite esoterico to date. Actually, having another look at it now, it's fleshed out over the last couple of months as well.
I think it's also important to note that you shouldn't really be drinking these super cold.
So these are all room temperature.
Yeah, we're not chilling these down. Often, if you chill wines down, you'll accentuate the bitterness and the tannin. So just room temperature as long as it's not a 42-degree day. Maybe a little bit of a chill.
Perfect picnic wine, I love that. Well done, Brendan and Laura. Busy day's bought a vineyard or an orchard.
I really hate all these young people doing, really amazing things. Just jealousy is rampant.
All right, moving from South Australia to Victoria, and specifically
slightly different coloured wine already.
Different coloured wine. So to the Yarra Valley, the wine is the Affion Fever. Also from the excellent 2021 vintage, a cool vintage, which I think probably lends itself well to these styles because it gives lovely freshness and sort of spine to the wines. Now Affion, this is Dave Mcintosh, Dave Bro, as he's affectionately known in the industry, Kiwi winemaker who's made an incredible fist of things here in Australia over the years. His label Affion in the Yarra Valley is a really popular kind of cult label. I'm sure Dave would love me using the term cult. And doing Chardonnays, Pinots on the serious end, and then having fun with these sort of blends. Fever is his house orange wine style. The blend, the vineyards change every year. The idea is that every year it looks like the Yarra Valley, and it looks like Affion, and it looks like Fever. It's always a Pinot Gris sort of dominated wine, so I'm pretty sure this is about 55% Pinot Gris, and then a bunch of other varieties making up the rest of the blend. Chardonnay, Pinot Noir, and probably something else I can't remember.
And it's probably the Pinot Gris element which gives it that slightly darker colour compared to the Esoterico. And Pinot Gris having that naturally copper-coloured skin just deepens the...
And that's why that's the reason you see those different colours. You can see behind us on the shelf too all these different wines. Pinot Gris, the natural colour of the skins lends itself to this.
Are they all orange?
Yeah, they are actually. I mean, some of them look like a light red or a rosé, but no, these are all skin contact white wines or orange wines. Whereas varieties like Riesling, Semillon with their lighter coloured green skins, you give time in their skins, they go more yellow, kind of golden colour. And then these Pinot Gris wines tend to go this more, well, that's actually not too dark. I've seen this wine darker in the past, but this lovely pinky copper sort of colour.
I think a standout on this wine for me is the acidity. In here, you don't often equate skin contact wines with having great acidity. Often, I think people sacrifice acidity to get the skinny elements they're after. But this has great vibrancy to it.
Oh, how much fun is that? All fairy floss, pink fruits, playful, red berries, strawberries, very floral, lovely style. Again, it's got that little, very slight pucker and grip, but not over the top at all.
No, it's not
very
fresh.
fresh.
Not puckering at all, really. And I hate to say it's another park wine.
Yeah,
but it's probably a park wine.
It is. That's playful. A bit like you.
Depends what you're playing in the park.
All right, moving on. Now, we're going to Europe now to look at a couple of the big guys. Now, when you think about skin contact wine traditionally, you think about Georgia, where the style was invented, which we'll come to in a moment. But these days, or I guess for the last 20 years, I say Northern Italy has made the style famous, and no producer more so than Radicon. So we're really excited to have a look at this.
Yeah, I think Italy is certainly the place you go to over the last 20 years to see the evolution in skin contact wines, and also it becoming a global force in the wine industry is really being driven by a variety of Italian producers. But Stanko Radicon, who founded Radicon, would certainly be up there as one of the pioneers of the style. He's sadly passed away, but his son Sasa has taken over and continues to really rock the skin contact wine world.
Yeah, so about 40 odd years ago, I think Stenko founded Redicon, I think the early 1980s, and they do a variety of styles. They do make some red wines, but they're really, what they're all about is these incredible skin contact wines. They're from the Friuli region where there's a lot of native varieties. So this is Ribolla Giallo, and I'd say maybe Redicon's most sort of sought after wine. And they love to release them with age too. So this is from the excellent 2016 vintage. I'm an expert on my Friuli vintages.
Yeah, it was a great year of Friuli.
Great year. So
I've checked the vintage chart. Also worth noting that of the 4 wines we've got here, this is I think the only one that is a vintage, a varietal specific wine.
Yeah.
The two Australians we had were blends, and it's fairly common that you see orange wines as blends, but this is specifically Ribolla Gialla, and my god, that's good. It's interesting because it's actually one of the to the uninitiated. It's probably going to be looked to be a quite a tannic, forceful wine, but in the range of Radicon wines, this is pretty
Gorgeous,
gentle.
So you can see this almost burnt orange caramel sort of colour compared to yellow, pink, copper. This has this almost fortified sort of look to it.
And yet this is only about 4 months on skins. He makes some other wines which have considerably more time on skins and are deeper, even more in colour, and can be quite challenging.
What a great bottle.
That's I'm putting the spit bucket aside now.
Just depth. These are lovely, really well made, precise wines. This has this whole extra universe of textures and flavors, and the length. It just goes and goes and goes. Very complex, but still feels very light on its feet.
Do you know what it reminds me of? It reminds me of the texture you get with a Sauterne, which sounds like a weird thing to say, because it's dry. It's not sweet. But it's got that kind of velvety layer after layer scenario. So almost like you're expecting it to turn into sweetness, but it's not. It continues being dry and evolving, and even with a crunchiness at the end of it. That's a great. That's also a great classic bottle of wine.
Yeah.
Within a skin contact natural wine.
100%. And you think natural wine. And even some of these Radicon bottles, which can be at times a little bit variable.
Bit of VA occasionally pops
that
in
is
the door.
clean as a whistle. Amazing structure without feeling overly tannic. It really just blends in. There's just so much fruit and body. That's an amazing.
I think it helps that you've kind of built up from these styles. If you went straight from a fresh Clare Valley Riesling to drinking this, it's going to look extremely tannic, but if you look at it in the context of orange wines, that's beautifully balanced, and just a great bottle of wine.
Gorgeous wine. All right, drink up, Ian. We're going to Georgia. Not the state, Georgia, but the country.
They probably do make wine in Georgia. They make wine in all 50 states.
Yeah.
I've never had a wine from Atlanta.
I'll take your word.
I did have a Roussanne from Texas on my trip a couple of weeks ago, and it was dreadful.
How's that?
Awful.
Textural deluxe.
The Lone Star Roussanne. Anyway, so Georgia is where it all began. Pretty much, they claim to be the oldest wine growing culture on Earth, going back to 6,000, 7,000, 8,000 BCE, and it's seen a real renaissance recently, obviously with the end of the Soviet Union. There's a bit more freedom for winemakers to do some interesting things and to go back to how they used to do it and to get their wines out there into the world. And probably at the vanguard of this is the brilliant Pheasant's Tears winery, which is a joint venture between a local guy from Georgia and an American called John Verdeman. I hope I pronounced that correctly. And they have, over the last 10, 15, maybe even earlier.
2005, I think they found.
2005, yeah. So about that, have taken the world by storm, using local indigenous varieties such as Ricatatelli. So this is the Ricatatelli. There's also a few other bits and pieces in there as well, as its wines tend to be. and using the ancient styles of fermenting and maturing the wines in the clay cuveri, which are buried in the ground and left alone for a considerable amount of time. If you ever go there or you see pictures, and it's a winery in Georgia, just looks like a series of potholes in the ground where the wine lies beneath. So we've seen the Pheasant's Tears wines gain incredible traction here. We first started selling them a couple of years ago, and as part of an expansion into Weird and Wonderful World of Wines, and they found a real niche.
Absolutely. Special shout out to Tim Stock at Vinous Imports, who basically single-handedly has championed this style in Australia and imports all the great Georgian producers of orange wines into Australia, and we're very grateful that he does, because these are such unique wines. This is like the Radicon. This is something else. Similar, I guess, colour, even darker. Yeah, and I'd say flavour, aromatically, flavour profile wise, a little bit more into this nutty, honeyed, burnt apple.
Even from a distance, you settle it over there, and it's like, is that a cognac?
Yeah.
And it's definitely got not by no means a boozy or spiritual scenario, but it's got that slightly rancio, nutty element to it.
It does, but the feature of this wine, the thing that you just can't ignore, is the tannin. Oh my god,
I'm hungry.
The structure. That is a mouthful of tannin, not in an unpleasant way, but it really, you wouldn't want to go from here to here. No. Put it that way. Like these would look almost invisible after this, because this is big, rich, powerful, complex, and then just tannin. I mean,
that is more tannin than most Australian red wines.
Yeah,
put simply. And the
very clean though. Again, they can be variable, these wines. Some vintages not as great as others. The 2020s have been fantastic, and that is clean as a whistle, very pure, but so much going on. I think another great example of that style.
Yeah. What would you eat with this? Is always a great question. It's a pretty dominant wine.
I think for me, with the orange wines, I think a variety of things. I love Asian food, actually. I think just with the amount of body there, they actually handle spice really well. North African food works well. I, to be honest, I have an orange wine open most times in the fridge for a little glass. I think they're fantastic as a bridge between a white and a red, palate cleanser with food.
And also they last. There's no hurry to drink orange wines. They'll last a nice long time in your fridge. The tannin and the structure adds as a great preservative for the wine. So yeah, buy a bottle, see how it evolves over a week.
I can't go over the tannin.
Are you losing your voice there? I
can't speak.
The tannins are just take the moisture out of your mouth, leaving you with that sucking, puckering sensation.
Well, we better wrap up, as Ian just demonstrated, because we've got the next guests here. But great lineup of orange wine, real interesting lineup there. A couple fun, clean, very neatly made Australian examples, and then these monsters here that are just world benchmarks. Fantastic wines. So we love orange wine. We've got dozens, if not hundreds, these days of orange wines in the store.
313.
Did you have a look? 313? Shit. Oh, there you go. 313, a few of which are on the wall there. We picked the prettiest ones. So guys, get amongst this style if you're not already. For those that already love orange wines, you'll know all about the likes of Pheasant's Tears and Radicon and others. And grab the bottles when you can, because they're special wines, they're unique, and I don't think they're going away.
No, here to stay, and thank goodness for that.
Awesome. Oh, well, happy International Orange Wine Day, everybody. Cheers.
Don't swear on camera.